I do like the way we start like that.
Yeah, it's totally cool.
Welcome to Leading Through Stories. Now, you're going to notice something different today. There's only two of us on screen. So, usually for Leading Through Stories, we have Helen Rose, who's passionate about grief, Mary McAleese, who's an educational leader, and of course, me, Christy Wolf. I believe that there's power in stories. But today, Mary cannot be with us. So, you are just hearing from Helen and I. For those of you joining us for the first time, please take a look at the show notes below. It'll tell you more information about who we are and why we're doing this whole Leading Through Stories thing. Today's episode is all about managing the holidays. So we get to kind of focus in on Helen's work. Helen, tell us what we're going to be doing.
Oh my gosh. Well, we're going to talk about the many words that are surrounded around Christmas. How's that? Good and bad.
Yeah, and there's a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah. I just have to mention my mug is the same color as our backdrop. And if anyone's wondering, I am not calling from the sunny skies. It's freaking cold here. But I just got back from Mexico, so I have to show off my tan shamelessly.
I know. I love that you're doing that. Oh man, we need that right now. For people
Oh,
that don't live in Alberta, it is like in the minus 30s currently across the province. So we're all pretty much just hiding and talking
yeah.
virtually right now.
Yeah. It's
Um,
weird a lot how cold it is.
yeah. And then just before Helen presents, I want to tell you a little bit more about her. So, bio wise, Helen is a speaker, an author, and a coach known for her ability to move, educate, and relate to crowds with her motivation and humor. And if you've been with us for a while, you also know about her humor. It really becomes evident she's passionate, talks with her hands, although I don't see that often because her hands are usually down below.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
gonna
I
hear
know. But they're
her
flying
waving around.
around. Trust me. You see, like a little bit there. Yeah.
And she has enormous energy. Helen's journey has given her the voice to share her story with others who may have traveled along similar paths. And I thought this part of her bio was interesting because Helen has just for the last 10 weeks been working on a digital story. I had taught a digital storytelling workshop through Arts Place, which was technically 8 weeks, but I spread it out a little bit. And so throughout that, Helen, you talked about a digital story. Do you want to touch on that a little bit? Because it might
I
get us
do.
into that grief piece.
I mean, I talk about this is what I do, right? I talk about grief, and it was really interesting because I wanted to support you, of course, because I love what you do. We kind of do the same thing, but you do it digitally, I do it differently. And I have to tell you, I went into it with like I have nothing to say, which is certainly not Helenness, and it was really interesting. It was a really interesting exercise. And I am so hooked on it now because to be able to condense what you're trying to say, to pick out all the key points in a short matter of time, 4 minutes, 2 to 4 minutes sounds like a long time or a short time. But when you're trying to get it all in and get what you want without overloading, it is a real challenge. And of course, you're so good at it. It was really just seamless. It was a beautiful experience. I would encourage anyone to do this digital storytelling. Christy, like it, honestly, you're not even paying me to say this, but
I know. I was like, this is an amazing plug. I'm
yeah,
gonna
no, it is
profit and put it in my Instagram. Well, and
totally.
Um, thank you for saying all of those things. I love it. You know that I am totally drinking the Kool-Aid. When I started digital storytelling, I didn't think that I would be as in love. And so, something that's happening for me this year is I'm going to go on to be a level 3 facilitator, which means that I will be training other people to teach how to do digital storytelling through common language. So that's not till the fall, but you
It's
know that kind of
beautiful.
feeling about something that you're looking forward to? Something I'm looking forward to gets me through things that aren't necessarily my favorite time of year. January for me, the holidays are fine for me.
Yeah,
January is the time I don't love.
yeah,
So having things to look ahead to that I'm excited about is really something that yeah,
yeah. And
kind of goes back to
your
this.
passion shows through that. You're very, very natural at it, and you don't. It's excellent. Like I was pleasantly surprised at how nervous I was at doing it. And then when it came together and I saw the final piece, I really love it. Like I'm going to start using that as a promo piece for me. And that was not the intent. And it was
I
like,
know. I know. Well, once you do start sharing it, we should send it out to this audience so that they can see it.
Oh, that's a great idea. I'd love that. Thanks. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Back to what you actually are going to talk about.
Well, we kind of do the same things, really, Christy. I mean, just in a different medium, right? But one of the things we wanted to do is start this whole thing is managing the holidays. But what are your holiday expectations? Because when we were talking before we went live, you know, I think I came from a very traditional background where we had a big family, and every Christmas we had the turkey and the ham, and I loved it. I love Christmas dinner. It's my favorite dinner. But in those days, I also had my mom and 3 aunts that were putting it all together, right? So then when we fast forward, it's much different now. Like we have, you know, we share holidays now because my daughter-in-law's family lives in BC, and they want to switch. Of course, they want to do so. And it's different when it's pared down to a smaller size. Anyway, I could go on forever. Like the thing is, I think the thing with the holidays is managing what your expectations are and that what works for you today. It's not in our old Italian, raised by Italians. Of course, we had like 6 million people at the dinner table, and it was a blast and tons of presents and stuff. But I think now we're getting into the time when the words we kind of use for around Christmas are joy and peace and happiness and Merry Christmas. And I think there's that notion that we're all supposed to be upbeat about the holidays. Me personally, I'm not really a Christmassy person. I find it exhausting, as exciting as it was when I was growing up. We also had, you know, a lot of stressful Christmases with my father, with his drinking and the stress my mother was under. So it was not always a happy holiday. And the food was good, I'll say that. But, you know, so I think the other words that we have to throw in the mix with that are the stress, the pressure we put under ourselves to have the perfect, you know, whatever. Just the time we put into the gifts that nobody needs, by the way, right? The cookies, the dinner has to be perfect. You have to have your table set beautifully. You've got to wrap the bed. It's exhausting. And not only, but you know, sometimes if you've lost someone close to Christmas, or you're coming up on the grieving bit that I'm going to talk about, you're coming on up, this is your first Christmas without your spouse, your child, whoever you've lost. That's really stressful. So other words that come in are guilt that you want to eat a dozen cookies of the 6 dozen you've made. She speaks from experience. You know, it's ridiculous. I love all those things, but then you worry about your weight, all that. And it's like, okay, that's where it's got to stop. It's like, eat the damn cookies. It's one day, it's 1 week. It's fine. You can change that in the new year if you want to. I'm
going to pop in for a second, because a couple things that are coming up for me are like, we lost Harrison's dad this past year. So this is the first Christmas without Harrison's dad in town. And that was like something that held part of the family together. And so it's interesting to watch traditions change. There was also like, there was like 4 different things that I was like, oh, and then I want to say this. One time because I have little kids, like we are still in that, like, they are still like, okay, we're going to record and see who drops off the presents, because they're like, we're not sure who is this that's doing it. And so the fun of it is still there, and the magic is still there. And so kids kind of bring you along for that part. But a few years ago, and as a teacher, like, kids are in school till the 23rd, which I actually loved as a teacher, and I love as a parent, because it's just chaos before Christmas. Like, I'd rather have the time after Christmas to kind of come down or go visit family or that kind of thing. But one year we did travel to Vancouver Island to see like family. And it was awful, like trying to travel when you have like 3 days to get there, and like, I don't know, all the flights are canceled right now and all these things are happening, and it just adds so much stress onto it. So we made the choice that we won't do that for Christmas. On Christmas Day, we are at our house, and if somebody wants to be here with us, that's fine. But I love the tradition of my kids come downstairs way too early, but that's life. And we do stockings, and they only do stockings first, and then we make breakfast, and then we kind of settle in and do Christmas presents. And so kind of breaking it up and taking time. And I am not a big dinner person on holidays. I cannot understand why people put so much work into making a huge meal for people to sit down for 4 minutes and then like, have to clean it all up. It makes me mad.
Yeah.
So tell us about what you were going to do, because you said that you're doing something different.
So our tradition is like turkey, but my daughter-in-law is vegetarian. So we have a small family. It's my son, my daughter-in-law, and my granddaughters, which when you're talking about Christmas brings back, the children bring it back. That's so very true. And this year they're, almost 5 and 3. So they're really excited about Santa and just the tree and the cookies and the gingerbread houses and all that. So that you can't help but absorb some of that joyous side to it. But we're not going to do a turkey this year. We're going to do Chinese food. And I think it's awesome. And my son's like, Mom, what do you think? And I'm like, yep, let's do it. Because on New Year's this year, I have friends coming from Toronto, so I'm going to do turkey then. So I'm not missing out on any of it. And it is right. Like my daughter-in-law is like, instead of worrying about, all the mess and the cleanup, why don't we just have food brought in? We enjoy it. And then we can have more family time instead of cleaning up and that stress of cleaning and the kids are screaming because they're tired. And so I like that. And you have to be at peace with doing that. In fact, when Alex was younger, twice I took him to Mexico for Christmas. We left on Christmas Eve and we stayed at the hotel in Calgary and we had the buffet brought in, just the two of us. And we were Christmas and New Year's in Mexico. It was fabulous. So yeah, it's like, does it have to be traditional for it to be a wonderful memory and to be, the traditions, like when we were talking too earlier was the stocking stuffers. I don't do stocking stuffers. I mean, when I was growing up, it was an orange pair of underwear, socks, deodorant, and we were excited to have those things. Now, part of the problem with Christmas is we can get whatever we want whenever we want throughout the year. That's definitely different than when we were younger. Yeah. And so the pressure is on to have all of these gifts. Like, let's face it, none of us need anything. It doesn't have, my oldest granddaughter asked Santa this year for a yo-yo. Yo-yo. Anyway.
Remember Cat's Cradle?
Yes.
He was just asking for the cat's cradle string instead of like the piece of line that I've got tied together right now. Like, keeping it simple. Experiences, things you can do. Mary's actually listening, so she couldn't be with us, but she is listening and she's adding comments. So she wrote, being careful that our holiday expectations don't create pressure for others is a really good point to it all as well. How do we find ways? Yeah, go ahead.
No, it's right, because if I think back to, again, when my mother and my aunts were cooking the dinner for 60 of us being Italian, I'm sure that was not fun for them. I am positive it wasn't. So the pressure they felt to have the Christmas so all the kids were, and we never saw it, of course, but I remember one year when I was married and we had all our family together, and I quite often would have like 14 people over, which that was fine. But I'm trying to make a pie and I'm wondering about this and that and this, and I just blew a gasket. So I think I threw the pastry like across the room. And then of course, when everyone comes to the door, it's like, oh, Merry Christmas. Meanwhile, you're like, can't wait for this to be over. Yeah. And let's face it, nothing like a holiday to bring out family dysfunction.
Oh, no kidding.
Right? So I think it's just to manage it is to, make a list of what you can't part with and what you can part with and be okay with it. And if no one else understands it, oh, well, I think that most people do. Would you agree? I think most people.
I do. And I think I actually feel like COVID has helped us to understand what is a bit more important about holidays. So this is an interesting one because this is like the first one where there's no restrictions at all. Like you can do whatever you choose. And I don't know, we kind of liked that not going away, spending time just with our family, like cocooning a little bit.
Yeah.
It actually also brings me back to, I saw a post this morning when I was, scrolling through social media,
In your free time.
as I do,
Yeah.
and it was talking about, it was the Canadian Federation. Oh no, I'm going to mess up the name, but it was about NICU families. So families that have children that are born prematurely. And it was talking about the holidays and how you manage in the holidays. And that is where we spent our first 3 Christmases between hospitals. There was a NICU stay, there was a cardiology stay, and then there was Mav got RSV, which is what's one of the issues going around right now. So we were in an intensive care unit over the holidays for 3 years in a row. And like the holidays do bring up a bit of that for me. Like I can be grateful we're not there, but some memories come up of places that we have had to spend time in. Just almost that idea of reaching out to people that might not be in a great space this year.
Yeah.
There's a couple people that I'm thinking of right this second that I need to write down their names and just like, hey, how are you doing?
Yeah, and that's really true. And the other thing too is that's really sad is when someone passes away on Christmas Day.
Mm-hmm.
When someone I will tell any man or woman is do not propose to someone on a big special holiday.
Yeah.
Because if he or she says no, guess what you're going to remember every freaking Christmas?
Yeah.
Right? Oh, what did Mary write to?
Oh. I'm enjoying this because it's almost like Mary's here with us. She keeps just
yeah. Oh, what time's dinner, Mary?
I also think like Mary has a large family and a lot of people around, and they do a lot of hosting. So hearing what she's doing, we also have Alexis McCowan in here making comments. I love the idea of a pre-made list of which elements, traditions you can live without and which ones are really important to you personally. Planning ahead to maximize happy times.
Absolutely. And I think, and to Mary's question or point, I don't. Do the Greeks actually celebrate Christmas as wildly as others do? I feel like it's not the most important holiday for the Greeks. I'm not sure. I mean, obviously that's a big sweeping statement to make, but some people like to ski on Christmas Day because they don't want all this out. I used to love doing orphans dinners when I was younger, living in Jasper, because we were all young and people weren't going home for Christmas. And so you'd have a big orphans dinner. The other thing that's really fun to do is to remember that there are families struggling. Mm-hmm. And, I used to be involved with the Spirit of Christmas campaign for Canmore, which is a fabulous organization. A lot of people like to just deliver the, that cheer that way, cookies, meals, gifts for people who are struggling, that can make you feel good too. It always doesn't have to be just what's in your own little circle too. You know
what that reminds me of right now? I was just, I shared it yesterday on my own personal stories. The Primary Care Network and right from the start have like a list of everything going on around the Bow Valley. So Christmas Spirit Campaign, other organizations that are resources for families and individuals. And that, I think I'll send that out as the takeaway in today's email. I know it's specific to the Bow Valley, but it might give you an idea about something else. The other thing that I was thinking, I don't know, we had Lisa Belanger on here the last time, and she had done that 12 days Advent calendar.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. Yeah. And in it, she talked quite a bit about grief. And so maybe we'll send a link to that as well.
Yeah. And I think with the grief part is okay, so if you're the person grieving, you may be putting on a brave face, which is okay too, but you may not want to. And like you say, cocoon, maybe you just want to sit at home and watch The Omen. I mean, I personally do not watch Christmas movies. Can't stand them.
Oh, I love them. I love them.
I'm right into the horror movies. I usually watch The Omen or Die Hard.
I was just going to ask you about Die Hard after you said that. Is that a Christmas movie for you?
Totally. And so people are like, The Omen? And I'm like, totally, because I didn't have Christmas wasn't happy for me. Yeah. So I can't even identify with the Christmas with the Cranks or whatever that movie is with Chevy Chase or whatever that one is.
You're dating yourself right now.
I'm dating. I'm molding myself. Yeah, no kidding. But And that's okay. It has to be okay. You have to be okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is, if someone else is grieving, is if they don't want to, they don't want to, and it's okay. Like, I think the word that could overshadow this whole talk today is it's okay. It's okay to do what works for you. If you want to sit and have, Kentucky Fried Chicken and watch whatever, some mindless TV show, and you don't want to be out there big face on because you're not having a good year, you're struggling financially, maybe you've just split up with some. I mean, that's the other thing. Just do it and be okay with it, because I think that's where a lot of that, and I don't know what the suicide rate is like at this time of year, but I think it's fairly high, as it higher than other parts of the world, but or of the year. But be okay with being not okay, right? You just want to sit and not involve yourself in it. That's fine. It's really hard to be on all the time.
That kind of comes back to that idea of just checking in on people. Like, I don't send Christmas cards. I send Heart Day cards, and I'm actually not sure if I'm going to do that this year, because that was the day that Bob died. And like, that brings up some other things. And for us, my dad died in January, early January. And what I find interesting, and I come back to a lot, is this idea that he had bought himself a drum kit for Christmas. Like, he was excited about things that were going on, and nobody really realized what else was going on behind the scenes.
And nobody does.
Right? And so I think that just, without looking for something, just sending a message, hey, I'm thinking about you this holiday season. Like, is there 5 people that you could send a message to? And maybe it's a diehard GIF. I'm not a diehard person, but like, maybe that's it. Like, something that will make someone smile. Just remind them that you're there, because it is a tough time. I was just doing, so Wolfpack Warriors Foundation is starting a podcast called Give, Amplify, Connect. And our first guest was Gloria Meldrum of Little Warriors. And she was talking about how hard everything is right now, and the overwhelm, and the needing to prioritize. And it was really interesting having that conversation with people that you see that are like, seem to have it all put together, right?
Yep.
A lot of the people I know right now that seem to have it all put together are also struggling, and maybe not talking about it publicly, but let's talk about it publicly. It is hard. And we have had a long couple of years, and sitting down and watching Mary's favorite movie of The Grinch Who Stole Christmas, or for me, like,
that's my favorite too. I love that one. Yeah, and it's true. And it's not about being bah humbug. I think everyone maybe remembers childhood times or whatever, if they were good for them. But you almost feel guilty. It's like, hey, how are you doing? It's like, actually, I'm really crappy right now, and blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, that's okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to be, I mean, look at that. I don't know that I never really watched Ellen DeGeneres, but everyone's devastated over the loss of Twitch, that dancer guy.
Yeah.
And he was the happiest dude and had danced with his wife that morning, apparently. So you truly don't know what people are going through. And those happy faces don't always mean they're really happy. They're just putting on it's like, fake it until you make it. Maybe they don't feel like people want to hear it. And, I hope, oh my gosh, I hope that someone always has someone else they can reach out to and say, hey, I'm really struggling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and Mary also just put in, remember, we can do these amazing things after Christmas as well. Like, there's not a timeline on what we need to do. And that actually speaks to me about the Christmas card. I just feel like it's such chaos right now that it's never been a priority for me. And like, why don't I take a little while and pick a day that's important to me and choose to do it at a different time? There's a couple things around the Bow Valley that I would love to do, and I'm trying to cram it in before Christmas. Like, why?
Yeah.
No, let's
That's
do it later.
what I'm saying now to people. It's like, you know what? I can't do lunch. I can't get so many requests. It's such a busy time of year. It's like, you know what? Let's do something in the new year. Okay. Yeah. And that's the way it is. It just has to be. Yeah. And that's the other thing too. Yeah, it is very true to remember. So,
look, she's here. I just sent a message to someone who might need a lift. Thank you for the reminder. Exactly.
Oh, we can go over. Her dinner's at Mary's place, everyone, at 6 p.m. Now, knowing Mary as we know her, she'd be happy to invite everyone in, which is nice. I kind of like those orphan dinners. They're kind of fun. Everyone just kind of comes together. And so I guess the other thing too.
Sorry, I'm going to jump in for a second. I was just at a conference where I knew one person and like doing something out of the ordinary. Maybe it's something that you have thought about doing for years. Maybe this is the perfect time to try something new and just like put yourself out there. It's not comfortable. And my husband will attest to the fact that I was super mad about some things that happened, but it was also like incredible growth happened at this conference. And it just like, I don't know, just
I
try
love
it
that.
sometimes. Try
You
it.
know, and the other part too to managing the holidays is you know, me and my my journaling, um, is to remember what happened during the holidays and what you would like to do repeat and what you would like to change. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I decided a long time ago when my grandchildren were born that I was not going to be the gift grandma.
Yeah.
I'm the experiences grandma. So when I was just in Mexico, I collected I have like 60 seashells that I collected over the 2 weeks. My whole suitcase was full of them. So I'm going to do a crafts day with them where they get to do like a sea. I'm going to put sand on paper and we're going to do that. That to me is what my grandchildren are going to remember. Not they're getting something small, which is funny. It's the Grinch. It's my granddaughter and I are the Grinch freaks. Love the Grinch. So she's getting a little Grinch pair of pajamas, and the other one's getting some dolls. But that's it. I think they were like $12 each, and I think that's what we have to get our head around. I always laugh when I was married. I would just give a list of what I wanted to my husband and act surprised when I opened them on Christmas morning, right? So for me, I'm like, I'm good. I'd rather go snowshoeing or something, whatever, you know.
Well, and the thing that I do every year is a photo book. So I create a photo book and I give it at Christmas time. So like my husband's not going to be surprised. It's the same thing I do every year, but that is something that then we have with our family and just it's not an experience, but I don't know, it is.
Yeah, of course it is. I bet you. I used to buy, you know that, okay, Mary, we are coming over. I don't know how to explain it to my family, but whatever. I used to buy you get those, it's where you set the Guinness World Book of Records.
Oh,
Every year they get one. I used to get my son one every year, and he would laugh about it, but I'm telling you, every year he looked for it. Every year. So I'm sure that Harrison is waiting for the picture book. It's beautiful to go back and reflect on the year. Yeah.
Okay. So wrapping up, what do you want people to know? What do you want to leave them with? And what's coming up that you might want people to know about?
I just want, I do want to say, this year Christmas is a little quiet for me and that's okay. But I had the best year in many, many years this year because I turned 60 and I decided that this was going to be my year to experience and do, and I'm going to do more. So I would say to someone, if there's something you're wanting to do, when I'm talking to people, I'll often say, this is a line, B for birth, D for death. If we have any control over it, where are you realistically on that line? Realistically here, there does not a lot of time. None of this matters. So set your intention for what you want for you for the next year. Yeah. And having said that, I just got all my final numbers for my Greek retreat. In 2023, we are stopping at Mary's cousin's olive oil factory. Actually, Mary and Dean might try and be there, which would be awesome. You could come too, Christy. We could use an official photographer. But I'm really excited about that. So I'm going to be marketing that in the next month or two. But yeah, my year, I'm just waiting to do more stuff. I'm going to go paddling some more. I'm going to spend time with friends. I'm not worrying about stuff that I used to worry about, which is really hard for me because I'm a worrywart. But that's what the intention is. And who knows what's going to happen for next year, right? Yeah.
So in our takeaway email, we'll send out that PCN network. We'll send a link to Lisa's work that she had just sent out. And a little bit about Helen's, who am I talking to right now? About Helen's Greek retreat. So we'll get people just so that they know about it. I don't
Yeah.
think we'll have the most up-to-date stuff yet, but that'll be coming. But at least you can kind of start thinking about it and planning your
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Our next episode is January 18th, and we will be announcing the guest closer to the date. Throughout this kind of second season, we've done one time of our work and then one time with a guest. And so we have another guest to introduce to everybody.
And she's a good one too.
Oh, it is going to be a good one.
Before you do the close, I'm going to say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you and Harrison and the boys, and to Mary and Dean and their family. And I love you guys. I'm so grateful for you. We have a great time together. We are going to be the next Canadian View one day. And it's been a lovely year. And I will say, and I know I can speak for Mary too, Christy, if we didn't have you, we would be so screwed on getting the links to all this stuff and whatever. So Merry Christmas.
Love it. Well, yeah, Merry Christmas. I find that I'm saying Happy Holidays a lot more lately and not focusing so much on Christmas, but I love this time of year for just kind of like the reflecting back and the thinking ahead to what's next. And we're all a bit like that. So I can't wait for the new year.
Cool.
All right. Let's say goodbye.
Bye.
Thanks, friends.